So here we super glued the trauma plate to the belt. We found the center on both, lined them up, glued it down, so this way we wouldn't have to worry about it moving on us when we go to drill to put the rivets in to hold it in place.
And the important thing is putting the tabs on the inside of the belt that will be closest to you.
Yes. Here's marking the approximate center of those tabs for the rivets and where to drill. And I originally thought when we filmed this that, why can't we just put the thermal detonator and the trauma plate all together at once and just bolt it all on at once, but the thermal detonator is smaller between the two of them than it is.
Yeah, the gap is wider on the trauma plate than it is the thermal detonator.
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
And I recommend using short rivets because, as I said, the rivets are getting popped from the outside in, so the sharp part will be towards you, and you want to make sure that it's clean.
Did we didn't put I don't have it in here. We didn't put a piece of foam over the back of that to help.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you be very careful not to drill your partner's hands. That is definitely not the center. We just noticed how close it was to the side.
No, for the rivets, we actually put them on the outside edge.
Okay.
We centered the tabs on the belt, and we put the rivets on the outside of the tabs.
I thought we centered it on there.
No, because we're gonna put rivets on the thermal detonator, and that's gonna go on the inside. So I wanted to put the rivets as far away from the thermal detonator so it didn't interfere, so that the thermal detonator would fit flush on the belt. So the rivets went on the outside of the tabs. And also because these are I can't think of what they're called. I call them squash rivets, press rivets. Since they're press rivets, I don't have a long clamp to squeeze it, so we had to get it as close to the edge that I could get that pliers in there. If it was centered.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah.
The pliers wouldn't hit.
Yeah, because also the lineman pliers have the cutting edge on there, so we would have just cut part of the blade itself.
You see there, that was as far away as we could get it.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that. I was thinking we were doing the regular rivets where you just click them and snap it off and have that little piece, but those actually end up being more flush than the other ones, so. It doesn't take much force to put them. Nice flush, now it's not going to move.
So now we're going to heat up the belt to shape it a little bit, because you don't want it flat when you go to put it on. You want it to have a little bit of that curve so that it sits right. And you have to be very careful with ABS, because if you heat it too long, it'll warp on you and you'll never get that straight look again. And when bending these, you want to go way over what you actually want. You see here that extreme curl. Now when I let go, it'll pop back to, it'll lose about 90% of that curl, and you'll be left with what you actually need.
Yes.
There, see? And on the Rogue One style Stormtrooper armor, the back of the belt sits over the front. It overlaps over the front, so the opening is facing front. And you want to curl it just a little bit so that it doesn't catch on anything and pull. Fortunately, you have the belt boxes that will deflect anything catching it, but always keep that in mind. And plus, you're going to be using industrial strength Velcro, so the belt's not coming off.
I just realized that you took it and you held it at your face. And I'm like, well, good thing it wasn't on, because you never point a gun at your face.
Well, with a heat gun, especially you see how dirty or messy my workbench is back there. Something gets inside of it, I don't want to be melting anything, so
Oh, yeah.
I look inside my heat gun every time to make sure I'm not going to be catching anything on fire.
Probably should have done that before you used it first.
It's just habit. I occasionally will just grab it and...
Yeah, it's freaking hot. See me playing it like a flute.
Mm-hmm. See, and Jay saw me hold on to it when it was super hot, and I didn't flinch, and so he's trying his hardest to not flinch. And
I've grown weak in my old days.
And here I'm talking about there's a slight curve in the base of the thermal detonator, and that will help the belt curve a little bit too.
Yeah, I overdid it.
And see, all it does is just help with the contours of the body. I gotta fix my side to make it look more like Jay's. Jay's showing me up.
Happy with the results there. This is actually not as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's there's a few more pieces that make it more difficult than the original trilogy, but if you've ever put original trilogy armor together, this is pretty simple. And as far as wearing it, I will take a Rogue One style Stormtrooper armor over the original trilogy any day. They're so much more comfortable. Now in this, you actually want to put the thermal detonator not quite center, just a hair towards the top of the belt. And when I say a hair, I mean maybe a 1/4 inch. And that will help cover up the seam between the trauma plate and the belt box. And it really doesn't matter. If you're keeping it pristine, then you'll see stuff and you need to work a little harder to fix rivets and stuff like that. But if you're going with say a Wobani clone or a Stormtrooper from Rogue One, you're going to be weathering it. If you go with the Remnant Stormtroopers from The Mandalorian, it's going to be heavily weathered. If you go with the Mimban Stormtroopers, it's severely weathered, and you have a cape. So you don't even see anything on the back.
Yeah.
And some of the Stormtroopers from the movies have backpacks, and so a lot of this stuff you won't put a thermal detonator on if you're going to wear a backpack, because the thermal detonator will get in the way. I never throw screws or nuts and bolts away, so I have a box full of all different sizes. I haven't had a project yet that I didn't have a spare screw or bolt or nut.
Yeah, most of the kits you get for putting furniture together, you get extras, so I usually keep it just in case one of those break, but it always comes in handy for something else.
And with this particular kit, it comes with a ABS thermal detonator. It was a flat sheet cut to size and then heated and rolled to the cylinder shape that Jay just pointed to. Right there, that's it exactly. You can also use PVC pipe.
Yeah.
PVC pipe will be a little bit heavier, but you won't have to worry about lining it up just perfect so that you don't see the seams. Now what you want to do is that the thermal detonator brace that he has in his right hand comes in two pieces. So you have to glue those pieces together, and then you want to leave it open so that you can rivet it to the belt. And then you just glue the... Actually, did we rivet it? We riveted the cylinder onto it, didn't we? We lined it all up and then riveted it? I don't remember. We'll see here in a minute.
We screwed the cylinder and everything down.
That's right.
All together on one. That's what we got those, I think, 632 screws with nuts and lock washers, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I think when I did mine off camera, I riveted the thermal detonator base to the belt, and then I put the thermal detonator in it. So I think we were trying something different with yours because I didn't like the result of mine. Or maybe I thought it could be easier.
Yeah.
Done easier.
That's what I said. All in all, this was pretty easy to get together with two people doing it.
Yeah.
And holding the nut and you're screwing or
drilling,
it worked out really easy.
It's tough to do it by yourself. Fortunately, with Jay's armor, I did all mine off camera prior to Jay coming over every day. And so I either knew what I was doing, I knew what we were going to be doing that day, or I figured out from trial and error that we could do things a little more efficiently, and we did it that way with Jay's.
Well, yeah, up into this, when we worked on the chest, is where I messed up at. I was still doing a Rogue One armor kit. I was not doing a Mimban. I was going to have the pristine white and everything went well up into the chest part, which you'll see. It was just a little mistake, and I'm going to screw it.
And really, it was recoverable.
Yeah,
we could have recovered it, especially doing a Wobani clone trooper, stormtrooper. We could have definitely.
I was doing the Rogue One just to get approved in the 501st, and then I was going to change it to a Wobani and dirty it up a little bit, which I didn't even think about that. But at that point, I was so mad that I'd messed up something so simple. I'm like, screw it, do a Mimban, maybe covered with a cape.
And what he did, we'll point it out when we get there. But
yeah,
the glue set faster than he was used to, and it was off by about 1/8 of an inch, and so
way more than 1/8 of an inch.
I don't know. it wouldn't have been noticeable when it was time to approve. But if you're a perfectionist, then you definitely have higher standards, and it changes your route in the armor making.
Yeah. Oh, when I first started this, I was so worried that I was going to mess it up. And I mean, I'm confident in my skills of doing art stuff. Mm-hmm. But and the more we got going, I relaxed a little bit, and I think I let my guard down a little too much in that back piece.
It was going too smoothly for you.
Yeah. If I would have just taken my time and lined it up and said I was trying to set it down and move it, and you're like, oh, we ain't going to move so easy once you set it down.
He didn't believe me when I said it is kind of difficult. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
And it was going too smoothly for him, and he thought, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. We're going to cruise right through it. And,
no, I didn't go that far.
And it is a little more difficult, but...
I should have tried on your armor. I think this was the hardest part. Really.
The helmet. I think the helmet was...
No, I mean for the trauma.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think this
Thermal detonators, because you have a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. 8. Yeah, 7 or 8 pieces put together, and this was the most. I think it would be the difficult.
Yeah, I think the only thermal detonator that's more difficult to put together is the First Order Stormtroopers. I've seen tutorials on just how to put the belt together, the thermal detonator together.
Oh shit!
And it's like a 20-minute video on just putting the thermal detonator together.
Yeah, I forgot to do this. I'll cut it out. The noise and everything. Love it when I don't remember. What's this?
So you can imagine Jay's holding it with one hand, holding the pliers with the other, and then I'm screwing in the screw. It definitely helps when you have a helper, even just to hold things in place. But if you're doing it by yourself, it's definitely possible. I did mine by myself.
Yeah. Well, it being my first one, I would never have taken the chances. I would have been calling you up all the time. Hey, can we do this? Can you come over and help out?
Yeah, you always have to remember his gravity.
Yeah. I was very happy with the way that turned out. I think I was a little bit off. It wasn't perfectly centered, but all in all, looking at it, it still looks good.
Yeah, I think yours came out better than mine. Again, I did mine by myself, so I didn't have that third hand to help, and it shows.
But it's also covered by the cave.
Yeah,
so.
And it's heavily weathered.
Yeah. I was actually quite surprised on all the tubes of epoxy that we used. Not a single one froze up on one side and only squared out the other side.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because that's happened to me on every single tube of epoxy
Yeah.
I've had.
I actually just used some the other day, and the one side was, when I twisted it, it broke the one side off, and the other side was sealed shut.
Oh.
And so, yeah, it was only maybe twice as much as you have right there on the screen, so it wasn't that much left in the tube. But,
Oh, okay.
so it didn't break my heart too much that I had to throw it away, but it always sucks. So yeah, you definitely want to use epoxy, the 2-part epoxy, instead of super glue to glue down the plate. Because super glue will, you move it a little bit and that super glue will pop. At least the epoxy will hold it. Now the tough part is getting in there.
Yeah, we definitely, that's why he was marking the lines on there so we knew where to put the epoxy.
Yeah, 'cause I'm pulling the plate way up high to give us as much room to get in there. And we wanted the epoxy right on the edge to minimize the potential of getting caught on something. And
Yeah, because it's not flat. There's actually a little...
yeah, there's a little ridge to give it the illusion that that plate is thick.
Yeah.
And now you just have to let gravity take the epoxy to where you need it.
You see, I love using painter's tape for holding shit down.
Yeah.
For, clamps work great and stuff, but when certain areas you can't get in because it'll break away into forms and shapes, it's working beautifully.
Yeah, when I'm doing it by myself, I hold it with my hands and go watch TV. That's why I like the 5-minute epoxy much better than the 15-minute.
Yeah. Her voice out.
You can hear it.
Yeah. Oh, you can pick it. It picks it up.
Oh, really?
But that won't be hard to do.
Got glue in your shoes.
That's the point. Yep, there it is. And in my crotch too. So that's the way I was like, oh, brand new. I've had these work pants for over a year. Never got them really too dirty. They couldn't wash it out, and now I got this stain there that don't look right between the legs. Yeah.
I'm thinking of some comments in my head that I could call Jay, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm staying quiet.
I was going to say, I'm sitting there like, I'm going to be fine. It's going to be okay. So I'm throwing my hand, I'm going to just distract myself and look at this.
I think I couldn't hold it in anymore, and I actually told Jay what I thought. The names I called them.
I've never worn my good shoes since then.
I've seen some other kits. The trauma plate it doesn't have those tabs. But what I would recommend is making some tabs and gluing them to the trauma plate so they look like that, because that makes attaching it to the belt so much